Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong. Here are tonight's top stories. Wild weather wreaked havoc on the city, leaving one person dead and another missing. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo dismisses call by North Korea for him to be removed from denuclearization talks. And the Calgary Flames need to win against the Colorado Avalanche to stay alive in their playoff series. The observatory issued its first red rainstorm warning of the year as Hong Kong was hit by freak weather this afternoon. A hiker died after he was struck by lightning, and at least one person is missing after falling off a fishing boat in rough waters. Raymond Young reports.
At the height of the rainstorm this afternoon, daylight was eclipsed by thundery skies, while the howl of gale-force winds rang across the streets of Sham Shui Po. For the sixth consecutive day, the observatory issued an amber rainstorm warning. Today's was issued at 1:40 p.m. 40 minutes later, the red rainstorm warning was issued, the first time this year. Over 50 millimeters of rain per hour came down across the city. Strong gusts also triggered a series of fallen trees and scaffolding, including in Causeway Bay and Tai Hang. Luckily, no one was injured. But on Lantau, a middle-aged man was struck by lightning as he was hiking near Tai O. He was airlifted to Tuen Mun Hospital, but could not be resuscitated in time. Police were also alerted when a sailboat capsized off Siu Sai Wan. 3 people fell into the sea and were later rescued, while 2 others remained on the boat, which drifted across the harbor to Cheung Kwan O. They were both safe. In a separate accident, 4 people were thrown from their fishing boat into the choppy waters of Po Toi Island in southeastern Hong Kong. 3 people were rescued, but 1 was still missing. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
2 former security ministers want lawmakers to pass the controversial extradition law amendment bill before the Legislative Council's recess in July. Yupina Ng reports.
With just 3 months before the Legislative Council goes into its summer recess, 2 former security chiefs urged lawmakers to pass the extradition law amendment bill. They made the pleas after Pan Democrats managed to stall a Legio meeting on Wednesday. Legislators were supposed to elect a chairman for a panel that would scrutinize the contentious bill, but the meeting ended before that could happen. New People's Party lawmaker Regina Ip, who served as Security Secretary from 1998 to 2003, believed it was the right time to update extradition laws.
Now that the government has put forward a case-by-case approach, I think we should seize the opportunity to complete the legislative exercise and to block the loophole.
Ip added that although she agreed with critics that the bill lacked proper consultation, the amendment proposal had been brought up in Legio before, when she was leading the Security Bureau. The current proposal was just a continuation, she said. If Legio passes the bill, Hong Kong would be able to hand over fugitives to Taiwan, Macau, and the mainland. But critics worried that dissidents and activists could be targeted by Beijing. Local and international business groups believed the legislation could reduce the city's appeal to overseas companies. But Lai Tong Kwok, who served as Security Secretary from 2012 and 2017, disagreed.
I don't think it can damage Hong Kong's image. On the contrary, I think it will enhance our image, because everybody knows that the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance was enacted to ensure that these fugitives will be brought to justice.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam expressed her disappointment today on the adjournment of Wednesday meeting. She said it was a pity that any government work that involved the mainland and central government faced strong and biased opposition. If Hong Kong continued to go this way, the one country, 2 systems principle would be hard to steadily maintain, she warned. Yupinam, HKIBC.
The velodrome in Cheung Kwan O became a wet mess after a false fire alarm caused the sunroof to open during a downpour yesterday. More from Yupina Ng.
No, rain isn't a feature of the $1.1 billion Hong Kong velodrome. This 16-second clip captured and posted on social media by professional cyclist Sarah Lee showed people holding umbrellas inside the Chung Kwan O Sport facility last night during an amber rainstorm warning. According to Lee, a false fire alarm caused the sunroof to open automatically, causing rain to fall inside the venue. Rainwater could still be seen across the velodrome today, at the badminton course, and parking spaces for bicycles. The cycling tracks were closed so dryers get rid of the water. Workers were busy mopping the floor. They also checked whether water had come through the wall or ceiling. Since its opening in 2014, the velodrome has been plagued with water seepage problems. Last year, the Audit Commission found there were 129 water seepage cases in the velodrome's main hall from December 2013 to June 2018. Sports lovers believed such an expensive and modern facility shouldn't have this issue. This man said the velodrome should have been able to handle a minor rainstorm. It cost so much money to build. The government should improve the facility, this woman said. Yu Pin, HKIBC.
Turning overseas, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has rejected North Korea's call for its removal from denuclearization talks. Ahead of a planned meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono for security talks in Washington. The two were later joined by acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan and his Japanese counterpart Takeshi Iwaya at the State Department. The two sides agreed to strengthen defense cooperation in space, cyber and electronic warfare. They also presented a united front on the issue of denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. In response to North Korea's call for Pompeo to be removed as Trump's top negotiator, the secretary said that he was still in charge of the U.S. negotiating team.
Nothing's changed. We're continuing to work to negotiate. I'm still in charge of the team. President Trump's obviously in charge of the overall effort, but it'll be my team. Special Representative Biggin will continue to lead the U.S. efforts to achieve what Chairman Kim committed to do back in June of last year, which was to denuclearize.
Pompeo may provide some minor relief to North Korea by easing travel restrictions, which may be considered in the short to medium term. But he believed it was possible to maintain diplomatic engagement with the hermit state without providing the sanctions relief it demanded. Japan also advocated a tough approach to North Korea.
The United States and Japan have agreed that we need to implement the Security Council resolution until North Korea CVID all the weapons of mass destruction and the missile of all ranges. I would not comment on so-called new weapons of North Korea, but unless they take concrete steps towards the CVID of nuclear weapons and missiles, there's going to be no bright future for North Korea.
Recognizing that malicious cyber activity presented a rising threat to the security of Japan and the U.S., the top diplomats affirmed that international law also applied in cyberspace, and a cyber attack could, in certain circumstances, constitute an armed attack under the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. The two sides also reiterated that the bilateral treaty applied to the contentious Diaoyu Islands, also known as the Senkaku Islands by Japan. U.S. intelligence has accused telecom giant Huawei of being funded by Chinese state security. According to a report by The Times, the CIA said Huawei received funding from the National Security Commission, the People's Liberation Army, and a third branch of the Chinese State Intelligence Network. U.S. intelligence reportedly shared its claims with other members of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing group, which included Britain, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Huawei has dismissed the accusations. Egyptians are voting in a referendum that could extend the rule of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi until 2030. Egypt's parliament, which is stacked with Sisi supporters, had overwhelmingly voted in favor of the proposed constitutional amendments earlier this week. They included allowing Sisi to extend his current term by 2 years and stand for another 6-year term. Critics see the constitutional changes as another step back toward authoritarianism. Voters will also decide on whether to create an upper parliamentary chamber. The poll will end on April 22nd. All right, on to the weather now. Sunny intervals in the afternoon tomorrow, but there will be showers and squally thunderstorms at first. Well, temperatures will range between 23 and 29 degrees, becoming fine and hot in the following couple of days. But now let's check out the weather around the world. That's our main news for Saturday night. Join me for more news at 11. I'm Isabel Wong. Thanks for watching. Good night.